7.9 by 57 millimeter J cartridge. Now this is the cartridge that the Germans designed first. The first thing I guess they came across was the cartridge. They figured out what they wanted, and then they designed a rifle from there. Now this is where the big, what the S means, and controversy and the difference of the rifles, rifling, barrels, twist rates, everything starts. Okay, we'll start with the cartridge. 7.9 by 57 millimeter J cartridge was the original one developed for the 8 millimeter, or for the 88 commission rifle. Early versions of the 98 rifle were chambered for this gun, okay? But I'll explain to you how it kind of transitioned till we get to the S version. The way this is, it's like all early military smokeless cartridge guns had these torpedo style bullets. And this is also where the confusion comes in with the different ammo in it, because I'm going to show you how it changed. Originally this has a bullet of .318, 318 thousandths diameter bullet. And this bullet weighs, this particular one, this cartridge was made in 1933. But my books are telling me the older bullets weighed 226 grains, while this actual bullet I pulled from this cartridge weighs 243 grains. That's besides the point. But officially, this cartridge shot a 25 to 245 grain bullet at about 2,093 feet per second. Okay, was the original cartridge. Now it's all new. The smokeless powder being used in it was new and everything. And there were two problems that developed immediately with the 88 rifle. They had problems with the ammunition. The cases would crack. You get neck splits from storage. The heads were torn off, the case heads. Primers were pierced and would blow back into the eye of the shooter. So this original ammo had several changes made. They changed the brass thickness. They changed the brass. They annealed the brass. They changed several things there, and they changed powder. And all of this was done before 1896. So there were several major, huge changes right there and then just with this. And also, the barrel first designed with this, to shoot this, had the land diameter was 311 thousandths. And that has stayed the same with all 8 millimeters to this day. And it had a groove diameter of 319 thousandths, which would be given a half thousandths play on this bullet. Now, they had trouble with wear, buildup, barrels rupturing, exploding. And I believe it has something to do with these early bullets. They didn't quite understand smokeless powder and how it worked. There's a large section of this bullet that engages the rifling. And under the pressure of the smokeless powder, it leaves a very strange buildup inside the barrel. Now I have a barrel that has the problems of the early guns. They thought it might have been in the steel, so they replaced the barrels with different steel. And then come to find out, they decided, well, why don't we change the depth of the groove of the rifling from 319. They went to, they decided upon 321 thousandths. Yeah, I wanted to open it up another 2 thousandths in depth, which solved a lot of the problems. The buildup, the barrels bursting, all kind of settled down. And some of these guns reworked did go up to the 323. But I do have two guns that are have a groove depth of 321. So that's basically how they were going with the J bullet, is they made a change. Originally the groove depth was 318, 319, and then they changed it to 321, okay, for the J bullet, and they found it to work better. But then as we go on, we're going to go over what the next upgrade of the bullet was into the S bullet, and the S bullet went to 323, 324 as the nominal groove diameter in the end. So the 321, 323, and 88 is close, but not quite as deep as another couple, it's only a couple more thousandths. And see, this is where the confusion is in the ammo and the groove depth. They were changing the ammunition, and they were constantly changing the groove depth in the different rifles, either by re-rifling them or re-barreling them completely. Okay, and then we're going to go and compare this to the S-load. Now the S-load, I don't have any of the original ammo because the S-load kind of changed. So now with the 7.9 by 57 millimeter JS, I have a cast bullet which is quite similar. This is like 180 grains. That bullet was a 150 grain bullet, spire point with a flat base. And you can see side by side there's a difference. And they say that this bullet in the S-load out of a 98 Mauser took off at about 2,880 feet per second. Now this is where people are getting this Romanian ammunition and saying that it is loaded to the equivalent of World War I ammo. I didn't know that the S round, see this is where we get confused, that the S round of World War I was a 150 grain bullet traveling at that speed. And that's just about what that surplus ammo runs. Now we're all familiar, probably in between the wars they come up with the other, which is still considered a 7.9 by 57 JS or whatever, but they came up with a heavier bullet, which was the Boattail spire point bullet. It weighs 198 grains. So it's like halfway between this and this. This old torpedo bullet was about 245 grains. These little spire points were about 150 grains. And they did the same thing in most of the guns. They had old torpedo bullets, and they had a close range bullet. Then they go to a bit heavier bullet, where the 8 millimeter, okay, is 198 grains with a boat tail and a spire point, where the first original S was a flat base with a spire point. Now this is the standard stuff you find. It used to be called a machine gun bullet or a long range bullet, and then over the years it just became the standard, and anything that was made after World War II will have this 198 grain bullet. It's kind of a standard military load in 8 millimeter, any modern ammo. And see, this is where the confusion is in. We got 3 different types of bullets. Okay, one at like 250, 150, and then 200. So you're throwing 3 different projectiles over time in history, and each one has a different velocity and a different effect on the rifling. Because the early guns, these here, engage more of the rifling, where this I think only engaged 37%. So even if you had a bullet that was 323 in diameter, and you had a 321 diameter groove depth, the Germans figured that you're not riding the whole length of the bullet like the old bullet, but only 30-some%, that it was safe to shoot, even though the bore is kind of tight. They figured that the pressure wouldn't build up that much. And so the S conversion, now if you take this all into consideration and see where the confusion is, okay, you got different velocities, because I was looking at it. This 198 grain bullet goes out about 2,300 feet per second, and I wasn't thinking that a 150 grain bullet standard is about 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. which is about normal, okay? And this here is just basically barely, the 250 is barely going out at 2,000 feet per second. So in my test, this ammunition is anywhere from 2002 to 2004, 2.5. It averages about 2,300 feet per second to 2004. I have not tested this ammo. It's too old for me to test. I can't get any type of bullets like this. Maybe I can try to find something comparable on a civilian or soft point type of bullet and try to reproduce it. This 150 grain spire point, Hornady makes something like this, a flat base soft point bullet, which maybe we can investigate and get in here and see what we can do with it. But that's the confusion. And the difference between the barrels is just a couple thousands. And when you're looking at totally rebarreling guns or reworking them or just using, they had stores of the old ammo. And the reason the Germans didn't convert a lot of these or convert them in any type of a finite, efficient manner was frontline guns were converted, but the reserves and stockpiles of the old ammo, what do you do with the old ammo? They were all sent back into reserve status, second line reservists, third line reservists. That's why these conversions are confusing, and some of the guns are converted to one way, and some of the guns are not, and that's why you're getting all these wild variances in these rifles in terms of groove diameter, what's been modified, what's not been modified, and then again your question, what's safe to shoot. Any of the early guns with the 319 groove diameters, they weren't safe with the J ammo to begin with. They had problems. They had to open up that groove diameter. So anything like that, all right, you got a problem. When we go to the 321s, which I have 2 of them, I like to shoot cast bullets size to 323, and then I'm safe, light load, and it's fine. I don't really know, even if I had a light load on something like this with a 223 grain bullet, I don't know if I'd like to shoot it in there. I tried it. It's not that bad. You can feel the difference in the recoil. It's got a little bit more pressure. I should run the 2 of them side by side on a chronograph to see. Maybe I'll do that as an experiment. But that's the difference between the 7.9 by 57J and JS, and that's the ammunition difference and how it transitioned from this to this little bullet to now. Anything you buy now is this 198 grain, and a lot of people say that Romanian, which was a 150 grain bullet, which I'm trying to get my hands on some and look at it, and they say it's safe to shoot in the 88s. Well, if that's the case, then this ammunition here too, the more modern stuff, is safe to shoot in the 88s. As long as you have a groove diameter 323 thousandths, you should be fine.